Well, thank you very much indeed, Cathaoirleach. I want to thank all the senators who have contributed to what I think has been a very useful and very interesting debate, and very much appreciate the thought and time they've given to their own contributions. I might try, I won't address every single issue, but I'm going to try to cover as many as I could. I'll start with Senator Boyne, and some of the points he raised were raised with a number of other people. This issue about everyone getting it, and you have to look at this and recognise that this is not the only measure that government applies in terms of addressing energy poverty. And the primary means and mechanisms is the budget. And this is very unusual and exceptional, and I don't think will be repeated. I think we're in very historically unprecedented times. The majority of the measures in addressing energy poverty were contained in the budget. And in October time, what Senator Boyne says is true. We've been watching these gas prices rise for almost a year now, and with increasing concern. And throughout that year, the expectations, and they were due to factors such as the rise in demand in Asia, very low stocks in Europe, particularly circumstances even last summer, very low wind across northwest Europe, and gas demand went up. Increasing carbon price, which shut off coal plants, which switched on gas plants. So it was an incredibly complex range of issues which caused the particular spike in gas prices, which was at the centre of this energy price spike we're seeing. And that's why a government in the budget introduces significant measures for social welfare, increases in the household allowances, qualified child allowance, working family payments, as well as fuel allowance, recognising that we do have to target and address and try and prevent fuel poverty in everything we do. But the European Commission in the autumn period, and I was at the European Energy Council Ministers meeting and the Environment Council Ministers meeting when we discussed this, said you need to go further across the board in countries across Europe. They said you need to go further because we're not seeing the prices come down as quickly as we expect them to do. We still expect them to come down, but again, not as quickly as we expected to. So the European Commission's expectations for inflation in our country next year will be down in the 2-3% I would expect. So, and the reason they're expecting that is they expect inflation, gas prices to come down, but not as quickly as we would like, and far higher than historical precedents. And therefore what the European Commission said this autumn is start looking at other measures that you can support further, and included in that toolbox direct payments, and included in it saying you may look at mechanisms, whether it's reducing VAT or taking from the ETS, as Senator Boyne said, or this type of measure where we have taken from both the underspent of the previous year and also from the general provisions that the Minister of Public Expenditure can provide contingency funding to be able to make a direct payment to everyone. But if you see it just in isolation, you think, oh, we're just looking after everyone the same. We're not. There are a whole range and sequence of other measures. And included in that, the money on retrofitting. And again, as an example, that 267 million, I think it is, my own department, 85 in the Military Department of Housing and Local Government. People mentioned, a lot of people, Senator Higgins and others mentioned the fact that, oh, that isn't targeted. It is targeted. The majority of money is going targeted at those low incomes. Out of that 267, about 118 million.
No, the Minister would argue.
No, I said that the overall retrofitting scheme did not do enough to target those lower income.
Senator, the Minister without interruption.
No, it's useful debate. But the Warmer Home Scheme, which is 100% state support for those at most risk of fuel poverty, gets 118 million out of that total. So, rightly. And similarly, Senator Boyne, I don't have the full details on how the Department of Housing and Local Government is progressing, but they are actually getting stuck in, and they are learning and are deeply committed. Like, this government is committed to 3 issues we have to tackle with all our heart. amending, tackling the health crisis, the COVID, but also now reforming the health system, in my mind, addressing the housing crisis, particularly profound in our own constituency, our own areas of the country, I should say, but also the climate crisis. And in the climate crisis, that requires all of government effort. So it isn't just the Department of Climate. And so that spending, that €85 million, which is not a small contribution, and which is going to scale up as they learn, is again targeting those in lowest incomes. So I can understand those who say, well, why give something to everyone? But we're not. We are targeting. And this payment was deliberately designed so it could be done quickly. So it could be, these are the months we need the support. We don't want people out there saying, I'm going to turn off my heating now. It's going to be cold next week, or there's bad weather forecast. We don't want people who might be at risk of fuel poverty to be saying, well, I'm going to live in cold, because that is actually one of the biggest health risks we have. So having it now, as Senator Dolan said, having it payable now in the middle of the teeth of the highest price and spikes in prices is the right thing to do. And the way of doing it this way, where you do it directly through the bill, where it's through the network, it's a rebate straight back. That for us was, we looked at a range of issues. Senator Boyd asked the issue about ETS funding. Yes, we looked at that. The funding wouldn't have actually covered the amount of money we need. But also this was quick, and this we could do in a very effective, low-cost way. And it was designed to leave no one behind. To answer your question there about those in the rented sector, very specifically designed for that we will, the vast majority are recipients or will be recipients of the direct credit. They do actually get the bill. And in instances where they don't, clear provision for the RTB, the Rental Tenancies Board, to be able to act as the mediator, as they do, should a landlord not pass on that benefit. So this has been designed to protect those who are in vulnerable positions like that. Tenants are just as important as the owner of a household. There's so many other, and I'm very conscious of constraint now. I've probably busted my 10 minutes almost nearly. Can I mention a couple of other points? Because it's great. Senator Dolan, Senator Carr, and others have mentioned transport and the transport provisions here. And again, the heat of the price crisis at the moment is in energy and transport, because of oil and gas. Gas putting up the electricity bills as well as heating bills, because our electricity bills are set by what the gas price is. But transport, obviously, as well, oil being a significant cost, is seeing increases. And what we wanted to do on an economics, because we have to be careful in fighting inflation. If we just pump money into the economy to fuel inflation, that could be very counterproductive. So what we want to do is give a clear signal in people's everyday, real lives, the fares, the bills you have to pay, the prescriptions you have to pay, the bus fares or the Lewis fares or whatever it is you have to pay. By bringing them down, it's particularly in those who are kind of struggling to meet day-to-day kind of costs, helps. So that transport fare was also needed, transport reduction. It's also needed because our public transport is slow to come back post-COVID. The average patronage is about 60% of pre-COVID numbers. It varies. In the regional cities, it has taken off. In Limerick, it's back almost close to 100%, I understand. In some of the new service we've introduced, the likes of Navan or in Louth, a number of different, where we've actually redirected bus services. Again, it's actually gone above what we expected, so we're going to have to get more bus and more drivers into some of those areas in your own constituency, in your own area part of the country. I keep make that mistake in terms of, but those new services have taken off. And Senator Dolan, what you're saying about I don't have the full details on the consultation process with NTA on the Connecting Ireland, but I think that's one of the most critical, most important, most significant investment in public transport that we have made, and the potential to be creative and efficient in it, where we connect in just the way you've been talking about local health services, local social welfare services, local school services, in my mind, with our public transport services, local link services. is the opportunity here. We're also going to have to do that well, because there isn't an endless pot of money. It is the public's money we're redistributing here. It's the tax we pay, which we're saying, and only government can do this in a clever, intelligent way, to do things that only the public service can do, a public transport system, or protect social welfare, those who don't have a safety net. Tax is not a bad word, from my perspective, coming from the left, because it gives us that ability to protect or to invest in a way that, as a private citizen, we can never do. Can never get the security for my neighbour, which is part of my security, if we don't have that tax revenue. And we are going to have to be efficient and clever. Yes, we put a lot of money into these measures because it was important immediately to have a response. But the state also needs to get good as we come out of COVID in getting good value from the money we spend and being really clever and smart in how we spend it. And I just finish with that kind of thought, because it might be so easy to think. I heard some oppositions the day after we announced 500 million. I thought I was worrying, God, are we being a bit inflationary here, until I heard opposition claims 1.5 billion, 2 billion, I'll raise you 3 billion, make it 4. We've got to be careful. Thank you.
Thank you.